Hello, I'm going to do a monthly art challenge drawing or sketch today. Um, the monthly challenge topic is glass, so I'm going to draw a glass. It could have been lots of things, of course, with just the word glass, but I'm actually going to try and do a drawing or a sketch of glass with strong side lighting on it and a shadow underneath it. Quite a difficult subject to get right, but let's see how we get on, I guess. It's going to be on a sort of a coloured paper background, as you can see. I've got some brown paper here, so I'm going to use normal graphite pencils, the mechanical pencils that I usually use for sketching, but maybe some coloured pencils as well for the highlights. So I'm going to use the brown paper as the sort of tonal background of this, and build up some highlights and put on some shadows as well with pencils, the actual graphite as well. Okay, so let's see how I get on. I'm just starting out here by using normal graphite pencil. It's a mechanical pencil, as you can see. To lay out the position of the glass, you can see that it's lying on its side on a plain background. You'll see that I'm getting things accurate at this stage. There's problems with the ellipse at the moment at the front, and I'm just changing the angle of that ellipse slightly. Adding the shadow now that you can see through the glass, of course, and to the side of the glass. The light is coming from the top right as we look at this here. I'm now rubbing out where I've laid it, because you don't want the outline of the glass to show. So I've started here by adding the white coloured pencil for the highlights. It's quite difficult to use the white coloured pencil with the graphite. You sort of have to put the white coloured pencil on first, otherwise it doesn't stick to the graphite if you're trying to put white highlights over the top of graphite that's already there. So that's quite a difficulty. I'm already even liking the sort of beginnings of the effect of having the highlights and the shadows, and using the brown of the paper to be the mid-tone. Just refining that ellipse again for the opening of the glass. It's a very complicated thing to paint or draw glass, because you're sort of drawing something that isn't there really. With it being so transparent, you could almost say it's not there. So it makes you very much observe the subtleties of the glass. You don't want to paint too many shadows on it, otherwise it looks too solid and not like glass. So there has to be a lot of the drawing or painting that is actually not there, but you indicate it by using the shapes of the shadows and the highlights, really. You can see that I've started to indicate the dimples of the glass at the bottom, sort of scalloped out bits of glass in the bottom. I'm not painting them or drawing them in any detail, but I'm just indicating them by the shape of the highlights that are catching the edges of those dimples and distorting the shadow that's through the glass. I'm now adding the highlights to the shadow, and again that's a complication with painting or drawing glass. If you're doing a solid object, a shadow is quite easy to do. It's a solid shadow and it varies possibly towards the edge, where it gets lighter and more feathered, and nearer to the object it's darker and more solid. Whereas when you're looking at glass, of course, you get the light reflecting through the glass as well. So even in the shadow areas there can be highlights that are caused by light picking up on the edges of the scallops, and in this case I'm very much trying to indicate without being too precise. So I'm trying to get the properties of glass without painting every individual line and shadow and shape and reflection. So it's a shorthand for what I've got in front of me. By the way, this was done from a photograph. I took a photograph before I started. I could have drawn it from life, I suppose. But I've been used to using photographs first, so I took the photograph beforehand and did it from a photograph. Starting to come together quite nicely now. Even the shadow is quite odd for this glass because you can see the shadow at the edges, but of course where the glass is smooth, the light goes through it, so it's not much of a shadow. Having to press quite hard for some of these highlights because there's shading already there, and as I said at the beginning, it's quite difficult to make the shading, that the highlights go over the shading once it's there. The white coloured pencil is quite transparent and doesn't stick to the paper where the graphite already is. Just darkening up some of the shadow area there that's furthest away from the glass, and as I said earlier on, that's quite unusual really. Normally a shadow gets lighter the further away from the object it is, but with glass, because the light is sometimes shining through a greater depth of glass, it can be confusing. Well, this is the final drawing. It was done on A4 paper and took about an hour in total. It isn't photographic, but I think it accurately gives the impression of a glass lying on its side with the shadow, and also the dimples of the glass at the base of the glass, without being too specific about putting them in. It was done, as I said at the beginning of the video, as an monthly art challenge piece. In the Discord of the Patreon, we have a monthly art challenge channel. So if you're a patron, then by all means have a go at doing this yourself and post your results in that channel. Be interesting to see other people's take on the topic of glass. Thanks for watching. I hope you've picked up some tips from watching me create this. Okay, I will see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.